of Nigeria industry is bedeviled by a lack of adequate capital structure. Most industries do not have enough equity to sustain their businesses. So they go to the banks and they borrow, and while things are going well, they can service the debt. Once you have a situation where there's a shock to the system, these companies are no longer able to service the debt. So what we have found, and many of these companies are now in the AMCON portfolio, and what we have found is that you must convert some of the debt to equity, and you must raise more equity. That's the biggest issue I think that our businesses have. If you look at the airlines today in Nigeria, the two major airlines flying are ARIC and Aero Contractors. And AMCON had to aggressively intervene to keep those airlines flying. Without AMCON's intervention, I think that the air travel system in Nigeria will have probably come to a halt. In the downstream oil industry, much of the marketers, I would say at least 50% of it, are AMCON portfolio accounts. And again, it's the case of one person owns everything, not enough equity, and a lot of debt. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to be a somewhat infrastructure bank. We're extending the loans, the tenure of the loans, from the average of 1 or 2 years to an average of 8 to 10 years. And even though we know 10 years is not sufficient for things like airlines, it's the best we can do because AMCON has a life expectancy. Not a legal one, but in all our planning, we are planning for a 10-year life expectancy. One of the differences of AMCON versus other similar institutions in the past is that we are not a liquidator by mentality. We are not, people come to me and say, this guy owes you money, go and liquidate his business. But we're concerned about the economy. We're concerned about employment. We're concerned about labor. We're concerned about impact of things on the economy. And in some cases, we will settle for less of a settlement if we can continue employment and all that. The statistic that I like to throw out to people is that in the civilized world, in Spain, Barcelona, Madrid, the average worker has three dependents, the average worker. In Nigeria, I think the number is more like 20. So every time you lose a job, the impact is much more significant in a place like Nigeria than in a developed country like the US. So we're very conscious about employment. And thankfully, at least in the banking industry, we have saved over 90% of the jobs that might have been lost without our intervention. AMCON did not come to save the banking industry. All of AMCON's intervention was directed at saving the depositors. Much of the money that AMCON put into these banks was to bring the depositors' funds back to zero so that no depositor will have lost money. So when people think that this was a bailout for the banks, please correct them. It was a bailout for the depositors. It was you all in this room and the vulnerable people in the villages and everybody who had their money in the banks that was bailed out. And we're happy we did it. And now we need to collect money from the people that owed us. But we'll do it with a very human face, and we'll do it in the interest of the economy. And let's keep thinking and challenging our government because that's the only way we can go forward. Thank you.